Hello and welcome back to the Direct Capital channel. Welcome to today's video update on Bitcoin and the market leaders. Since yesterday, a few things have happened. There have been a few explosive rallies. So let's dive right into it. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Let's dive right into Bitcoin's price action. Here in the short term, we're going to look at the daily, the short term view here for Bitcoin. Yesterday, I was talking about how this supply zone was weighing down on price and how price would struggle to maintain the top of this ascending triangle, this orange ascending triangle. So a lot of sellers, a lot of sell side pressure weighing down on price, and it indeed prompted a return, or at least a breakdown, past the ascending triangle top. This support couldn't hold. There weren't enough buyers there, and that's why we saw a breakdown into the structure, this ascending triangle, and ultimately a daily close below the ascending triangle top. And essentially speaking, price wicked all the way to the next support level at 6,500. So what we're seeing from Bitcoin at the moment for the past few days, maybe even weeks really, is that every time Bitcoin breaks down, so for instance from here, it broke down to the ascending triangle top, every time it reaches a support, we see a rebound, and these rebounds tend to be relief, like the one we saw here to 7,200, or even the liquidity grab over here to around 6,600, and then a relief rally straight into the supply zone. And once again, now we're seeing a breakdown into the ascending triangle, a tap of the 6,500 support level, and now a rebound towards the upside, which could very well be relief, of course. Moving forward, the most important thing to bear in mind is that this is the local supply zone, and if we get a daily close below here, then we'll probably revisit this 7,200 level. So these two resistances are the ones to watch, and this hasn't really changed for Bitcoin. Things are remaining the same. These are the two resistances that I'm watching for. The most important resistance, of course, being 7,200. This is the 2-year moving average, and it's really the level that's going to dictate directional bias for Bitcoin if we're going to be going further to the upside towards beyond even this resistance area, which I'm not even talking about because we're not even there yet. That's the next resistance level that is most important after 7,200, and we actually got a rejection from this level. We barely scraped that resistance area, which just showcases to us that there are a lot of sellers stacked there, and buyers don't even have the pressure to even properly penetrate this resistance area. So that's a resistance area for another day, but for the time being, 7,200 remains an important area for price. One other thing to bear in mind here is that we have reached this 6,500 level, and the last time we tested this as a support, we did see some volatility, some wicking into the supply zone. Of course, the only difference here now is that we're actually seeing price breach past this supply zone, but the question we need to answer ourselves, or at least ask ourselves, is this support really renewed with additional demand and buy support? Do we have enough buy volume from this level to prompt price into a different conclusion? And that different conclusion would essentially be breaking past this 7,200 finally, this level, because it is a level that's plaguing Bitcoin. It's still weighing down on price. And the other thing to really bear in mind as well is, how is this level going to figure relative to price? So we saw this sort of fake out into this supply zone, and then we saw a curling down of the price action to lower levels. And are we going to see a lower high at around these levels relative to these levels? So this 7,200 level could reject price a little sooner in this particular case, so we could maybe even see a lower high, which would be a very interesting thing to bear in mind for Bitcoin, because it will showcase that sellers are creeping lower and lower. Sellers want to be selling Bitcoin at lower and lower prices because they don't want to hold anymore, which demonstrates an interesting psychology in of itself. But in any case, the lower high a possibility. 7,200 as a rejection zone is most likely, of course, as long as we press past this red supply zone again. But really nothing has changed on the macro scale. And if we zoom out to the macro scale, yesterday's video showcased this candle as a red one because we were seeing a retrace, and in fact we can now see that this was a hammer-like candle which tapped into liquidity at a lower price just to gain that buy support, and we've seen a bounce straight again into resistance. So nothing's really changing in terms of the price action that we've seen over the past few weeks, over the past 5 weeks really, because this is the 5th week of price essentially wicking or just tapping the 7,200 level. And at the moment, it doesn't showcase to us that this level is weakening. It isn't weakening at the moment as a resistance, and we haven't seen any wicking like we've seen over here past this level in the short term. So at the moment, we're just rallying into resistance, guys. So nothing too exciting to bring to you at the moment. We just need to understand how strong this resistance area is. Can it show some sign of faltering? Will we see some price action past that resistance? Because ultimately, the most bullish sign would be to close on the weekly above this level. And at the moment, it doesn't look like that at all. We've just bounced into resistance, which could easily be a relief rally into a lower high, like I just showed in the short-term time frame. It could be a relief rally because, like I said, every time we've seen a lower support, so this lower support or even this lower support, we've seen relief rallies into resistance. So I'm just wondering, is that the case this time round as well? And of course, if this continues to be a resistance, then at some point we really need to see a stronger rejection to the downside. So this entire retrace over here, this isn't the retrace we were watching for. This isn't the retrace that is that major low. A major low retrace would be a revisit to at least this area, and this is still very much on the cards, especially since Bitcoin is still pretty much just maintaining its highs below resistance, which isn't a very good situation if we don't see additional buy volume come in. It's a very precarious situation for price to just hang at resistance, because that tends to precede really sharp drops when the sellers truly decide to just stack on the sell side orders and prompt that cascading downtrending momentum. So in any case, that's about it for Bitcoin today. My view hasn't changed on the macro scale, but when it comes to Ethereum, fantastic news. Yesterday we were talking about how it was important for either of these trend lines, this trend line or this trend line, holding as a bottom to this macro ascending triangle. So these were the 2 points of reference for Ethereum, and thankfully it was a fantastic retest of this bottom trend line. And if we just zoom into the daily time frame, you can see how we've just been maintaining the support of the bottom trend line pretty well, very nicely indeed, and that prompted a 14% rally towards the upside, which is fantastic news. But of course, if we just zoom out once again, this blue diagonal is still continuing to figure as a resistance in the short term. In the short term and in the long term, really, because since August, really, this is the resistance that has been plaguing Ethereum's price action, aside from this outlier price action. So I'm just going to describe to you guys the significance of this blue diagonal. This blue diagonal resistance is going to be rejecting price, and indeed, this is what happened last week. We saw a strong wicking price action towards this blue diagonal, a rejection and a return to the bottom trend line to just test it as a support. So now we're at this resistance once again, and if you'd like to zoom in and become a little bit more nuanced about this, these two wicks are actually showcasing a lower high, very nuanced, very minor, but this is of course owing to the fact that we have this sloping diagonal right over here, this sloping resistance, which is actually causing this lower high. But in any case, this is the resistance to be. To see a break past this resistance, then you can be rest assured that we're going to see a deviation, a strong deviation from this diagonal towards the upside, because this is what we've seen before. So a breakout past this level would probably lead to a fantastic rally for Ethereum. So this blue diagonal is the level to watch for further trend continuation. But in any case, even if we see a rejection here, you can notice that we're seeing a pennant form here, right? A lower high, a higher low. That is the bottom trend line of the ascending triangle. So even if we see a rejection, we're probably going to see some coiling into the apex of this structure. So the bullish case is pressing past this blue diagonal and really enjoying a nice deviation towards the upside past this blue diagonal, or even a rejection. And if that rejection happens, then we're probably going to see this pennant come into fruition with some coiling into the apex of this triangle before finally compressing to the point of actually preceding some volatility. So that's Ethereum USD on the weekly. I just wanted to talk briefly about Ethereum BTC before we move on to Litecoin, because Ethereum BTC, I don't know if you guys remember from my videos a few weeks back, I haven't covered Ethereum BTC in a while because we had these 4 straight weeks of downside price action, and then we had a few weeks of consolidation at lows. But in any case, if you guys remember the fractal that I was talking to you guys about, and the fact that this was the 200 daily moving average, the 200 daily exponential moving average, and how we see breakouts past this 200 daily exponential moving average and then a revisit of it as a support before further trend continuation towards the upside. And this is indeed what's happening many weeks later from the original video where I spoke about it, and this fractal is available on my Twitter, so I've also been talking about this on my Twitter as I have been on YouTube. But in any case, this fractal, even though we saw some overextension towards the upside past this fractal, because usually we tend to see a 20% increase towards the upside before having that retrace towards testing the 200 daily exponential moving average as a support before rallying further, we actually got a 30% increase towards the upside right over here before actually seeing this fractal occur. So even though we saw this overextension, this fractal very much still is in the balance. It still is playing out quite nicely, which is really interesting to see because Ethereum BTC is following through on its historical price tendencies, and at the moment Ethereum BTC has rallied from the 200 daily exponential moving average. It has rallied 17%, something I've been covering on my Twitter. In any case, we've reached this immediate resistance zone. This is the first immediate resistance zone that Ethereum BTC is going to want to press past. This is where the sellers are going to be strong at the moment. But the thing to bear in mind is, will Ethereum BTC close above this red level? Because this is essentially a range for Ethereum BTC. And the fact that we're out of this range means that we could potentially even test this level as a support before continuing higher. But we'll have to see about that. We'll have to see about that. I want to see how this resistance is going to reject price, how strong it will be relative to price. But in any case, this fractal is still playing out quite nicely, and I'm going to be focusing on this fractal in the coming weeks, as I have been over the past few weeks already. But in any case, altcoin dominance has been increasing towards the upside ever since testing its ascending triangle top as a support, and this ascending triangle, or at least this increase from the ascending triangle top, this increase in altcoin dominance is of course in large part influenced by this Ethereum rebound, because Ethereum has a large market cap, so it's going to drag a lot of the altcoin valuations, or at least the altcoin dominance, towards the upside. So this recent increase is in large part due to Ethereum and Litecoin in some part as well. But in any case, this is good news for altcoin dominance because they are gaining some dominance from Bitcoin, and going along with that, we should see some other altcoins also enjoy some rallies towards the upside as well. And finally, this is Litecoin. The $40.80 level is figuring as a support quite nicely. I spoke about how a wick to the downside past this level was a possibility, and that possibility has turned into a reality, and it's no surprise because we've seen wicking past this level to the downside in the past before and over here as well. So this wicking price action isn't an anomaly, even though it represents outlier price action and extreme panic selling emotion, which is quite paradoxical in of itself, but probably a topic for another day. But in any case, $40.80 continues to maintain itself as a support, and this wick has grabbed some liquidity at lower price levels, which is fantastic because the chances of a weekly close as we approach Sunday midnight in a few days time, this means that Litecoin has a pretty good chance of closing on the weekly above $40.80, and if it does that, should it do so, Litecoin could enjoy some further upside next week. And having said that, that's just about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching today. Please consider dropping a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I hope you're having a fantastic day today, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.